myself. Oh no, give me that sound. Oh, I gotta go like Cobain. 8 years to the grave, gone insane. My blood got propane. How you gon' go and throw my name with shame? Already cross-faded, making it to the disco. I hate it, and you know how this goes. You framed it, picture painted in my room. This that real life shit. None of Zoom got the scene in it.
Make sure you subscribe to JerCrispy.
What's up, y'all? It's your host, the most, that's the most. JerCrispy, welcome back to another video. Welcome back to another video. The worst character in GT and Grand Theft Auto. Well, I was about to say GTA, Grand Theft Auto in history. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, follow all social media gonna pop on the screen. And let's see what this nigga TBP got going on.
GTA San Andreas. Yeah, sounds about right. One of the most landmark titles in the history of video games, and was for many years my favorite game of all time. These days, not so sure, because I genuinely can't even decide what my favorite game is these days.
Damn.
I didn't play it for quite a while as my interests shifted in my teenage years, however I still said it was my favorite game. Then the time came for me to replay it back in 2017, and I noticed quite a few crow's feet. Don't get me wrong, it's still a fantastic game. Just not as perfect as my nostalgia led me to believe it was. It's still an all-timer, but even all-timers have their issues. To me, though, the most glaring revelation I came to after coming back to it after all that time was just how catastrophically awful the character of Sweet Johnson was. Now, if you clicked on this video but have never played GTA San Andreas before...
So, if Sweet Johnson was your worst character in your opinion?
What are you doing? But either way, I will attempt
I gotta play this game, bro.
Plot. The Johnson family grew up...
I have to play with CJ Johnson and Sweet Johnson. Imagine they call you Sweet Johnson for your street name is Sweet Johnson. That shit gotta be the
slums of the fictional city of Los Santos. If Los Santos is LA, then Grove Street, the area they grew up in, is Compton. Just down the road from Idlewood, which would be the fictional equivalent of Inglewood. This eventually led the family into the gang life, with Sweet Johnson eventually becoming the leader of the Grove Street family gang and recruiting his brother as well as some friends of the family. However, through a combination of wanting bigger things, partially responsible as well, Carl Johnson, aka CJ, moves out to the East Coast for 5 years until he comes back in light of their mother's death due to a drive-by that was meant to take out Sweet. That's where things start in the game. CJ comes back to town and is immediately berated for abandoning the family and decides to stick around to help things get back on track as well as make up for lost time. Grove Street has lost a lot of its power and influence because of their inability to keep a consistent cash flow, as Sweet is philosophically opposed to drugs in every way.
Everyday ballers get stronger, and you and I get weaker. You and I get poorer, man. That shit'll blow over. Oh, it always does.
Probably one of the few positive attributes of his character. What ensues is a rather confrontational and at times uncomfortable showing of the early 90s gang life during the crack epidemic, and the desperation that people will go through to survive and thrive in that environment. His refusal to get on board with cashing in on the drug trade leads to your homies Big Smoke
and that's easy.
Conspire behind Sweet's back to become major drug barons, all the while attempting to sabotage our boy Sweet at every opportunity. With the help of the corrupt cop Officer Tenpenny and his crew, there's a constant conspiracy to get Sweet either killed or arrested. Something they eventually succeed at. CJ is thrown out of Los Santos, while Sweet gets thrown in the clink. 75% of the game takes place without Sweet, with CJ determined that he's gonna get his brother out. This comes to a head when CJ does a bunch of favors for Mike Torino, a government agent with a lot of connections, and CJ is able to get Sweet released from prison as payback for his work, which is where the final chunk of the game takes place and the final confrontation takes place. When you take back Grove Street's power a second time, well, a third time, as well as go after Big Smoke. So why is Sweet such a terrible character? Oh god, where do I start? Even before he's reintroduced into the main plot at the end of the game, I already don't like Sweet because from the moment he's introduced, he's essentially berating CJ at every turn for quote-unquote abandoning the family.
Damn.
That's another funeral you ran away from, fool. Just like Brian's.
Oh, that's sweet.
Hey, she was my mama too. Not for the past 5 years, she wasn't.
I get the idea that this was coming hot off the heels of their mother dying, and therefore Sweet was in an emotionally volatile state. However, both CJ and Kendall, their sister, are also dealing with the exact same grief. and both of them manage to be good, well-rounded people. Sweet is just acting like a complete and total anus because he believes his brother has some sort of unspoken obligation to his family and the families. He makes it an issue that CJ wanted out of Los Santos and wanted something better for himself. Now, I'm personally of the belief that nobody has any obligation to anyone but themselves at the end of the day. In this cold, bleak world, if you don't look out for yourself, nobody will. If CJ wanted to move to another city to get a fresh start, that's entirely on him, and he's not wrong for doing so.
Right.
Was he wrong for leaving after Brian's death? Maybe. But that was his choice to make, and treating him like a pariah after he comes back isn't going to bring Brian or the lost time back. It's especially egregious because Sweet himself hasn't done anything to prove himself to be the better person, and yet he acts as such. And to act like he has some sort of obligation to either his blood family or his gang family is completely egotistical and narrow-minded. That is an arbitrary belief that you are projecting onto other people and getting mad when they don't uphold said belief. For what it's worth, by the end of the first act, Sweet has essentially forgiven CJ, but only after CJ has helped re-establish Grove Street, when through gameplay alone, CJ is able to restore the gang back to its former glory by Mission 25 without even having to touch drugs. Meaning the gang could have thrived under Sweet, it just didn't. So what this says to me is that Sweet is just a terrible leader, and he could have kept the families afloat if he was a competent leader whatsoever. If this was where his characterization stayed through the rest of the game, that would be fine, because at that point it's nothing more than a character arc as well as a story arc for CJ to regain the respect of his brother. Unfortunately, they horribly botch Sweet's characterization when he's reintroduced to the plot in the third act. I can't do this scene justice, just watch.
We got a stake in the casino, we got some insane shit in Fierro, we get into the rap game. Hey, man,
yeah.
get some new clothes, come on.
Clothes? What the f is this bullshit?
What you mean, man?
Right.
Mine is yours, and you know that.
You never told
Right.
me, did you, Carl? I need to go check on things in the hood. Man, that's the problem. You always a perpetrator, running from what's real.
Hey, man, shit's
Man, nigga trying to help you out. Get you out that situation. The fuck? I ain't never seen a nigga trying to get out the hood. Nigga trying to say, I'm trying to go see what the hood talk about. Nigga, you were just locked in the pen. Fighting for your life. You talking about you need to go back to the hood? Nigga, fuck out my face. I would have said that.
No.
Right.
That's exactly where I want to be. What you done for our hood?
Man, what the hood done for me?
Right.
Always dragging me down.
Right.
Ever since I got out the hood, shit been crack.
Exactly. Life been good.
To get out the hood.
Man, you sound just like Smoke right now.
Oh my god, this is one of the most...
So what? You want to stay in the hood? You want to stay in the hood? For the rest of your life? Ducking bullets every day. Running. I know, I'm talking about game wisely. Cause no nigga shit. I live in the street. I don't live in no hood. Shit, about one point was living in the hood one time. So I mean, ain't nothing wrong, you know. You ain't gotta show nobody to be gangster. But that, if I was an actor, that's why I would have probably been like that. Well, every movie, it's like everybody trying to get out the hood, bro. Even rappers trying to get out the hood. Why you think the rappers never go back to their hood? Cause they don't, cause the hood don't like them like that no more. Or they do go back to their hood and stuff like that. It's very quiet.
Infuriating cutscenes in the history of gaming. There are multiple lines that absolutely piss me off. You never did get it, did you, Carl? Get what? Get f***ing what? How to wallow in the same spot for your entire life, not accomplishing anything? That's the problem. You're always a perpetrator, running from what's real. What do you mean what's real? He somehow wants to paint living the gang life as what's real? You know what's real? Living to not die in a drive-by at the age of 27. Something Sweet seems determined to do proudly. So what, was CJ supposed to just give up everything he's earned as soon as Sweet got out of prison? Just to go back to what's real? You ungrateful prick. And then there's that moment where Sweet asks CJ what he's done for the hood, and CJ asks what the hood has ever done for him. And yeah, I agree. CJ was able to accomplish so much once he got out of his old neighborhood. Sure, the circumstances weren't exactly the best, and a lot of it was luck. But by this point, he's part owner of a casino, he's got businesses in San Fierro, he's managing the comeback of one of the best rappers in this fictional world. He's got it all figured out. CJ is the American dream personified at this point. And all Sweet has to say is, oh, what about Mom's house? What about Mom's house? What's there other than sentimentality? And the audacity of this guy to ask CJ what he's ever done for the hood? Oh, I don't know, how about the entire first act of the game? Evidently he did more for the gang in a few weeks than you ever did, but apparently that doesn't count. Then there's the part where he just says the quiet part out loud. When CJ says, that's everyone's dream, to get out of the hood. And Sweet replies, you sound just like Big Smoke right now. Excuse me, what? You're somehow conflating CJ to the main antagonist just because they both wanted something bigger out of their lives? Are you kidding me? CJ hasn't done 1/10 of the amount of shit that Smoke has. By that logic, everybody who moves out of their childhood neighborhood is the equivalent of a backstabbing, drug-dealing turncoat. That is such a bullshit objectivist belief that these two situations are somehow equal. These two situations aren't even remotely comparable, and just because they had similar wants in life doesn't mean that CJ is even remotely comparable to the person who screwed both of them over. This is textbook manipulation. And the most insulting part is, all this stuff, all this money, all the worldly goods, everything that CJ worked tooth and nail to acquire since Sweet went to prison, including Sweet's own freedom, doesn't just get rejected by Sweet, he throws it in CJ's face. He's insulted at the very idea of moving up in life, and insulted that CJ believes in being able to do something better. He acts like a victim in all of this, and the crazy thing is, the game is trying to paint Sweet as being the one in the right. He's the one who wants to reestablish the old gang. He's the one who wants to go back to doing what's real. As if everything that CJ's done has been completely pointless. I want to slap him in the face and tell him, how dare you treat your brother like that after he's offered you so much. After he's done so much for you. And the ironic thing about this is, Sweet spent a good chunk of the opening chapter of the game complaining to CJ about how he abandoned his family, and now he's turning around and trying to make CJ supporting his family into a bad thing? And then there's one of the following scenes. This is another instance where I want to slap him and tell him, how dare you. In the mission Beat Down on Beat Up, Sweet is moping around in his house, and he's lamenting the state of his gang and lamenting how crack has ripped the families apart to the point where he...
Come on now, I can't do that.
Come on, Sweet, come on. Make sure you enjoy this. This is a rich man's high. All the players are doing it. I know you're gonna enjoy this. It takes the pain away.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, what the hell you doing?
Shit. Man, everything is KKK. Man, I just want to see what's so good.
What's wrong with you, man?
Man, this shit already destroyed the whole hood. I might as well let it destroy me, too.
This is so frustrating because he's sitting here feeling...
Nigga, what? I would rather, might as well let it destroy me too. I swear niggas ain't got common sense in fucking game, real life, motherfucking any life form we fucking live in. Niggas ain't got common sense for shit.
Feeling sorry for himself over how everything's falling apart, but I remind you, things have only fallen apart because he chooses not to fix them. He's actively choosing to sit in his crummy house, hanging out with crack whores, and succumbing to the urge to smoke crack. When he could have very easily just not done that, if he just stopped with the victim mentality BS and stopped acting like there's no way out of the situation he put himself into. Like, yeah, I get it. He's a prideful person and doesn't want to take handouts. But if he doesn't want to take handouts, he's not doing anything that improves his situation. He's actively going out of his way to make his situation worse, because he basically refuses to do anything to fix it. It's not until CJ slaps some sense into him that he actually decides to try and get things done. Because as with most games, the curse of being a protagonist is that he's the only one who's actually proactive. But even with everything in mind, it's still so frustrating to sit there watching him on the verge of self-destruction, acting like he has nothing when that's demonstrably not true. But I guess he doesn't care.
Because that's not how victim mentality works.
Like, Jesus, man. Pull yourself together. Do something to
Facts.
improve your situation, or just take CJ up on his offer. And then there's the final scene that paints the picture of exactly what I don't like about Sweet. It's short and it's a bit subtle, but it's no less infuriating. Check out this bit from the final scene.
Anyway, what's next?
We should hit the casinos, roll some dice with Woozy.
Nah, we gotta take care of shit here first.
We going on tour, fam.
Nigga, why we want to take care of shit first, nigga? It's either see another day or die. Nigga, shit. I just keep it real with you. It's either live to see, try to fight for another day or die. It's time to move around. Goddamn.
ain't gotta test my nose. Stop running.
So basically, Officer Tenpenny is dead, and as such, everyone's celebrating their victories. Everyone's deciding on what they need to do next. Everyone's moving on to bigger and better things, and they have problems all over the state, and the first thing that Sweet says is they need to handle business in the hood. Why? There are more important things to worry about. They're celebrating gold records, record revenue, major business ventures, an actual future, and he's just sitting there worrying about what happens in his slum. And once again, what does he get out of this?
Nothing.
And let me be clear, these are just the 3 biggest scenes that illustrate my issue that I have with Sweet towards the end of the game. But practically every scene he's in has some line that is ungodly whiny, frustrating, and so backwards. Like this gem.
Look, the world's bigger than this hood.
Facts.
This is where our lives begin and where it's probably gonna end.
No, Sweet, it's where your life is probably gonna end. In case you haven't realized, not everyone wants to be here, you self-absorbed prick. Like, how could you be so stuck in your ways as to genuinely say this? I have a hard time articulating just how much a line like this pisses me off. He's not just championing stagnation, he's making it out to be the default that he's expecting everyone to follow.
Kendall can come see me right here at her home.
So let me get this straight. Sweet just got out of prison, he hasn't seen his sister in months, but he's so indignant over the idea that CJ and possibly others don't care about Grove Street like he does, that instead of going to see her, he crosses his arms and demands that she comes to visit him here. Because apparently, the hood is more important than family now. How many times can I say how dare you in a video? Then there's this.
You keep yapping on what you done did, let me tell you what I done did. When Kendall needed shoes, I went out and got the money. When Mom's needed operation, I robbed people for the bread. While you off in Liberty City thinking about your own shit.
Congratulations, you did some good things, but you never took the thought far enough to use the startup capital to get out of the hood, get a better life for yourself. Because that's not what you want. Besides, CJ broke into a military base to help get you out of jail, and all you seem to be doing recently is sitting around complaining while CJ does all the work on a never-ending quest to earn your validation. How
Facts.
CJ sits back and just takes this abuse, I will never know. Sweet's insufferable. I could kill him. And he's not even real. His entire character hinges on the ever so balmy premise that the Grove Street family is anything more than a liability that will eventually leave him in jail or dead. As a matter of fact, it already left him in jail, and had it not been for his brother having a level of ambition beyond the slums he was born in, he would have still been in jail. So we already have a prime example of the small-minded mindset versus the larger mindset. Sweet has such a small-minded viewpoint, as if to illustrate some ill-conceived notion about knowing where you came from, and I get that. Remembering where you came from is one of the key themes this game works with. But I'm sorry, but holding reverence for where you came from is one thing, but I always interpreted knowing where you came from as to mean stay humble, not doing what Sweet is doing. He's seeking it out and refusing to leave when the opportunity presents itself, and that's asinine 10 and 11, considering that it brought you nothing but suffering. Your mother is dead because of this gang. Your brother is dead because of this gang. And the whole thing feels so disconnected from the rest of the game, which is what makes his character and his suffering ring so hollow. You can't act like there's no way out when there is, and you can't decide to feel sorry for yourself when you have chosen that life for yourself.
Facts.
To me, he comes across as a man stuck in a perpetual state of emotional arrested development. He's stuck in this cycle of poverty, and despite suffering, it's all he's known and therefore all he ever wants, because even if he's suffering, at least he's suffering doing something he knows. He's complacent, he's comfortable where he is, and that's fine. That's not the issue. Being content living in a slum for your entire life because of some misplaced sentimentality isn't the issue. Okay, it is, but it's not the whole issue. The larger issue is it's somehow everyone else's problem that they don't decide to do the exact same thing he does, to live the exact same way he does. And to do all this and then act like a martyr and then use that as an excuse to disrespect everyone around him, including his own siblings? Man, it's so frustrating. You're not a martyr. You're a man-child. And the fact is, I understand that his characterization makes some sense, but making sense and being conducive to good storytelling are two completely separate things. If a fictional character is positioned as a main character and an ally to the protagonist, they should be, if not likable, at least a compelling character. Sweet kind of fails as a character in every way possible. If they had just made him more understanding and less hostile to his siblings and then cut the victim mentality BS, he could have potentially been a halfway decent character by the end. Especially if they kept his characterization consistent from the first half of the game to the second half of the game.
Right.
How about instead of, how dare you offer me part of something that was almost a fictional idea a matter of months ago, they go with, hey, I appreciate the offer and I'm happy for what you've accomplished. That may be important to you, but I've got to look out for what's important to me. And right now, that's our home. And I don't want to come across as overly negative about this game because it truly does have a lot going for it. Beyond the final chapter, the story is great. It has a lot of fun characters. I think the aforementioned Mike Torino might actually be my favorite of them, because he's this antagonistic douche who sees CJ as less than the dirt beneath his feet, and he's also incredibly mysterious and underhanded. He comes across as a borderline psychotic a lot of the time, but in spite of his attitudes, which range from apathetic to antagonistic, he's a man who keeps his word and is 100% on the level when it coms to CJ. And Woozy Moo's another side character who I enjoy. One of the key themes this game works with is respect, hence it being one of your stats you can upgrade. Those who respect CJ have a mutually beneficial partnership, but those who disrespect CJ and treat him badly eventually end up in the dirt. Nobody is more exemplary of this than Woozy, who treats CJ as an equal and a partner pretty much from the moment they meet, and they form a partnership which essentially allows them to become a semi-legitimate syndicate that controls the majority of San Andreas. He's a stand-up guy, and the fact of him being blind leads to a lot of good character work. And Caesar is also a stand-up guy. In fact, in many ways, he comes across as more of a brother to CJ than CJ's own brother. He was the one in the field helping CJ every step of the way, even though his only obligation was to CJ's sister, but he's such a stand-up guy that he wants to do right by Kendall by doing right by CJ, in spite of the fact that CJ treated him pretty poorly at first. There was a hint of prejudice in their relationship over the idea of Kendall wanting to date a Latino, but Caesar earns the respect of CJ both through his treatment of Kendall as well as his willingness to be his partner in crime. That's what we call a character arc. And in this case, Sweet never changes his prejudiced views against Caesar. Even in the penultimate mission, Caesar is asking CJ to talk to Sweet because Caesar wants to ask Kendall to marry him, but he's afraid Sweet will flip out. So there's an indication that Sweet's opinions on Caesar haven't changed, and therefore he's just as prejudiced at the end of the game as he was at the beginning of the game. But I got off track. This is a game with so many well-written, interesting characters, both allied and opposed to you. Almost everything about this game works from a storytelling perspective. It has issues, but it amazes me how wrong they got this one. And the fact that the game is as good as it is in so many ways makes it so frustrating and glaring when flaws like this become apparent. But regardless of what standards are surrounding the experience, that still doesn't make Sweet any less of a horrible character. Easily one of the worst written characters, if not the worst written character in the history of GTA. Anyways, that's enough ranting for me. If you like what I do here and want to support the channel,
Alright. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow us social media. Pop up on the screen. We're on the road to 300 and I'm out.